Hi everyone, and welcome to the Workman Diaries. This is my first ever vlog, and the reason for it is because I had shoulder surgery last Monday, which would be the 8th of January, and I want to document my experiences for my own benefit, but also because I think it might help other people to see what I've gone through, what's helped me. I've tried looking online for things, and there's a lot about rotator cuff repair and shoulder replacement, not so much capsular release, which I had. I didn't know I was going to have that only. I thought I had a full thickness tear of the supraspinatus. All these terms you learn when you hurt yourself. But I ended up not needing the tear repaired, so I did have capsular release, which is what they do for a frozen shoulder. I think the technical term for a frozen shoulder is adhesive capsulitis, also another term I've learned. So I did intend to do this earlier, but this is that first day I've actually felt like I'm human again. I've managed to have a bath because I still can't get this dressing wet, and I managed to wash my hair then over the bath. And the good thing about the surgery I've had is they do want you to use your arm as much as you can. So already I have more movement in it than I had before the surgery, but I think it's a long road ahead to get it back to full strength and full range of movement. But so I don't want to have to keep doing retakes on this, so if there's any mistakes, they're going to be in there. I'll try and make these videos no longer than 10 minutes. So this one might have to be part 1 and part 2. We'll see how I go, because I'd like to give you a bit of context and a little bit about me first. So I'm Anna. The reason I've called this the Workman Diaries is because my maiden name was Workman, and I'm 57. I live in Shetland, which is 200 miles north of Scotland, and I've been here since 2002. Born in London originally, and lived all over England before moving here. And so I'm actually English, not Scottish or Shetland at all, but I'm married now to a Scot. And the reason for my surgery was basically last year, 2023 in March, I fell on ice, black ice. We have a very steep drive, and I fell, bang, back of my head, fell on this shoulder. I was actually looking at the Northern Lights, but previous to that, we'd got a new dog. She's a Fox Red Lab, 18 months at the time, and it became very apparent she wasn't lead trained, and I got a long lead, and she pulled me quite a few times, really hurting my shoulder. But at the time, I didn't think much of it. And then gradually, as the weeks and months went on, I began to have more and more pain in this arm. I was making beds, shooting pain actually. It was really difficult, but I just lived with it, thought it would get better. And then that progressed until in May, my daughter had a little boy, and I went along to the hospital to hold and meet my new grandson. And while I was holding him, I had such bad pain down my arm, I realised I'd have to put him down. And that was when I thought I'd need to go to the doctor. So, cutting a long story short, I went for an appointment. The doctor thought I had the beginnings of a frozen shoulder. She sent me to physio. I started physio faithfully, doing the exercises, and it made everything a whole lot worse. And so I ended up going back, and then I ended up seeing a private physio who thought I'd possibly torn one of my rotator cuff tendons, maybe two. She wasn't sure, but she gave me more exercises. I thought I needed a scan. So I went back to see about that. So the doctor sent me for an x-ray, which showed everything was fine bone-wise. And then I had eventually had a scan in August, which showed that I had a full thickness tear. And by then I could do nothing that I used to be able to do. So I couldn't lift my arm up at all. I couldn't even do this. So I can do this now. So I couldn't wash my own hair, couldn't get dressed properly. I couldn't lift. So it really, really restricted my movement, and it became extremely painful. So they sent me, well, they said they'd put me through for an urgent referral, and I would have, I would hear something within 4 weeks, 3 or 4 weeks. Anyway, that came and went. I phoned up, they said, no, sorry, there's a delay, and that never came. And it became very apparent that there were long waiting lists, and I wasn't really going to get anywhere fast anyway. So I asked a few friends for advice and ended up going for a private consultation. Now, because of where I live, I have to go to Aberdeen, which is 200 miles away, for consultations and for this kind of surgery. So I ended up going to see a private consultant in Aberdeen. He had a look at me, he had a look at the scan. He said the scan didn't really say much. He wasn't convinced that I would need a repair of a tear. By then I'd done lots of research and decided that's what I needed. Was fully prepared by then to have surgery and a long road of recovery. But another friend who's a doctor on the Western Isles had suggested I ask the private surgeon if he had an NHS waiting list, which he did. So he agreed to put me on it. And then became a waiting game. And so I ended up having an original surgery date of the 11th of December, and that was changed not long before that to the 8th of January, with the caveat that that could still be cancelled if there were emergencies and things like that. Thankfully, it wasn't cancelled. But so wheels set in motion, and I had to go down a day before because I wanted to be there, because if I was late, that would be cancelled. So I went down on the 7th of January to Aberdeen. We stayed in a hotel. I was booked in for day surgery, but once I saw the surgeon, he said, no, I think you would need to stay overnight, which I was actually very relieved about. I'd never had surgery before. I'd never had a general anaesthetic before. So it was slightly daunting, but the team at the hospital were really, really good. So I arrived on time, well in advance of my 11 o'clock appointment on the Monday, and they took me through into that ward straight away. So I had to say goodbye to my husband then and there, and they said it would be, a while before I had surgery, and then that would take 1.5 hours or something, and then 2 hours in recovery. So that was me, and then they took me through. I saw a pre-op nurse and had a little interview with her. I saw the anaesthetist. They told me to change into a gown. All kinds of strange things they asked, like was my underwear 100% cotton? Because apparently if they have to do something emergency-wise, nylon can burn you. Really fascinating stuff. But anyway, and then they asked when I last ate. So on my letter it said I could have a small breakfast before 6:30, which I had done. Then they had somehow brought me forward to 11:30, and it was too early because I needed 6 hours after I'd eaten. As it was, there was another lady in surgery, and by the time she was finished, they could take me. So my surgeon came up to see me beforehand, along with 2 other surgeons, one in training and another person. So you're surrounded by a team of people, and he explained that I would have to trust him, that he told me what he would do for the capsular release, and then said he would repair the tear if necessary, but I'd need to trust him on whether it was necessary. And so that was that. And then at 12:15, I went down to have the surgery done. So I'm going to stop that video there because I do want to try and keep it to 10 minutes, and I'll do a part 2 of my experience then and the next 9 days up until now.